Welcome to Blueprint Radio. I'm your host, Martin Williams. Here we help you create a blueprint for your life. So let's build. And thank you for tuning in to Blueprint Radio. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and SoundCloud. All the links to the podcast can be found at guidedexpressions.com/podcast with an S. Today's topic is life gives to the giver. Now, I used to watch this show called Run's House. I think it's called Run's House. Yeah. It was about Rev Run, who was part of the legendary rap duo Run DMC. And it followed his family, as they were kind of navigating life in the suburbs of New York City. And, he, became a preacher and got married, and he had older children by his first wife, and then second wife, he had, I believe it was 2 more kids. I'm not sure. I'm trying to remember. But anyway, not important to what I'm talking about today. So today, the reason I chose my topic is, he used to say it. He used to say it on his show. So at the end of each show, he'd be sitting in his bathtub, and basically he'd be sending out these emails every morning. I think it was either emails or texts. And, when you signed up to his subscription list, you would get these morning emails, right? And I think it reached over 1 million people that he was sending this to every single day. And one of the things that he would say in those emails was, life gives to the giver and takes from the taker. And of course, that's the law of compensation, right? It's really simple. But a lot of people, even though it's simple, I think a lot of people either don't know it or they don't understand it, and they certainly don't live it, right? And I know that for me, I have often, tried to get by doing the bare minimum, right? Just do enough to get by, do enough to not get fired, do enough to not get yelled at, do enough to, just kind of stay under the radar, right? And that gets you a result, right? When you do just enough, you end up with just enough. When you do the bare minimum, you end up with the bare minimum. This, as a general rule. I mean, some people don't do anything and end up with a lot, but the way that life is and the way that I've learned how life is in due time, the books kind of balance themselves, right? And so even though people think that they can circumvent that law, they really can't. There's no circumventing that law. The law of compensation in the Bible is called the law of sowing and reaping. Same thing, right? You reap what you sow, and you reap how you sow, right? So, if you sow, like I said, the bare minimum, that's what you're going to reap. You're going to get the bare minimum. You're going to get just enough, right? And when you are spiritually inclined, it happens even faster, right? So I think a lot of people get this wrong. They get it wrong at work. They get it wrong at home. They get it wrong in relationships, right? Because you can have this attitude where you say, well, why do I have to do all that? I shouldn't have to do all that, right? And the answer is you don't, right? You don't have to, work out every day. You don't have to, balance your checkbook. You don't have to, do more than what you're being asked to do at your job. You don't have to do those things. You don't have to start a new business. You don't have to. You don't have to give of yourself, on the weekends or during your free time. None of these things you have to do. But if you do them, you're going to reap more than you would have originally if you hadn't, right? And really, this is what makes the world go round. There's always people doing more than what's expected of them, people who go the extra mile, right? When you go to restaurants and things and, you have a waiter or waitress who goes the extra mile, doesn't it feel amazing? Like, doesn't it feel like, wow, this is really cool? Like you feel special. And what do you want to do when you leave? You want to leave them like the best tip you can, right? So I've really, over the years, I've really made it a point to tip really good service because it's rare, right? It's rare. Like, you don't really get good service like you used to, and there's a lot that goes into that. I know a lot of people are unhappy with what they're doing, and I'm certainly not coming against that. I can understand that. But I also want to reward good service when I get it, right? And so a lot of people think that they can circumvent the law of compensation. They think that they can do just enough to get by, or even worse, do nothing and have everything. And that's really not how that works. You can't just not do and expect to have, right? Now, in the context of what I've taught, I know that I've taught, that creation is finished, and it is, right? But we have to understand that creation is finished in the spiritual realm, right? What you want already exists, but it exists in the spiritual realm, in the unseen realm, right? It is your faith that brings it out of the unseen realm into the seen realm. Your faith brings what is not readily apparent into a realm where we can see, touch, taste, smell, right? Now, what you have to understand is that faith without work is dead, right? That's a biblical principle, right? You have to work your faith. You have to put work to your faith. I told the story yesterday about the key story and how I had to basically retrace my steps on the beach to find my key, right? Now, if I hadn't walked along the beach to find my key, I wouldn't have found it, right? It would have just sat there. But I had to basically put feet to pavement, in a manner of speaking, and walk and get my key, right? It was there the entire time, but I had to go and get it. And in the same way in life, you have to do that, right? Everything that you want is already here, but you have to go get it. That's the part that a lot of people don't necessarily understand, is that, either they have really low expectations and they get it, or they have really high expectations, but they think, well, I don't have to do that. I don't have to work hard, because when I worked hard, I didn't get anything. Well, the reason that you got something. The reason that you didn't get what you wanted is because your expectations were too low. A lot of people have very low expectations and they get them every time, right? But when you have high expectations and then you put the work and the vision together, then you get the stuff that you really want. You get those high expectations, they start getting realized, right? But you have to put as much as you can into life, right? Life is, like a bank. What you deposit is what you get out, right? So what I've learned over the years is doing the bare minimum is not going to cut it, because I don't want the bare minimum. I want more, right? And in the same way, when you take from life, it'll be taken from you, okay? A lot of people think that they can steal and get away with it, but it don't work like that. You have to understand that when you take, it will be taken from you. And maybe it's not taken the same way that you took whatever it is that you took, but it'll be taken in a different way. And so, when you look at how it's like someone who commits a criminal act, right? And maybe it seems like they get away with it, but, they have to pay another way. Like they'll pay maybe, financially, they'll pay with relationships, they'll pay with, people betraying them, right? Wife, husband betraying them, and it seemed like they got away with it, but it really didn't. It really didn't, because that's how life works. Life gives to the giver, takes from the taker. So the takeaway should be to be a giver and give as much as you possibly can to life. And, maybe the compensation doesn't happen right away, right? I'm not getting paid for these podcasts yet, right? I'm putting these out and there's no, instant compensation there. There's no instant gratification in the form of money, right? But I know that, it's helping me and it's helping someone who's listening to it, right? And it's helping people that I may never meet personally. I may never meet you, those of you that are listening. But if it's helping you, then I've done my job and I don't have to worry about the compensation part. I know that it'll come in some way because that's just how life works. The compensation always shows up, whether it's positive or negative. So just remember that and let that guide your activities. And I think that you'll find that you'll start enjoying more of the life that you were supposed to enjoy. So thank you so much for tuning in to Blueprint Radio. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for listening to Blueprint Radio. For more information on Martin Williams coaching and products, please go to guidedexpressions.com or visit me on Facebook as well as Instagram.